Welcome back, everybody. The news cycle went absolutely insane, so we have a lot to catch up on, a lot to discuss, starting with a press conference that, hey, in just a second, I'll show you something that could end up being and already is, I would say, a positive development. But first, let me kind of show you how it started, and then I'll show you when that announcement came up. And that was, of course, as I'm sure you heard, on Gaza, Trump proclaiming that they have stage one of a peace agreement secured, and I'll get into all of that. But where this press conference started was an extremely frightening place. Imagine when I talk about Trump's threats against the First Amendment, and I'm arguing with someone who doesn't agree with my assessment there. And I said, all right, does it not concern you that he did this to CBS? And they go, no, because XYZ. What this, Kimmel? No, XYZ. This, pressuring law firms, blah, blah, this on, and go through. And I go, okay, what about when he says that MSNBC should be taken off the air, NBC should be taken off the air? They're like, no, because blah, blah, blah. What if I said that he verbatim said we took the First Amendment away? The response you would think would be, okay, well, yeah, but that would never happen. Okay.
A flag burning mob, and we've made it 1 year penalty for inciting riots. We took the freedom of speech away because that's been through the courts, and the court said you have freedom of speech. But what has happened is when they burn a flag, it agitates and irritates crowds. I've never seen anything like it on both sides, and you end up with riots. So we're going on that basis. We're looking at it not from the freedom of speech, which I always felt strongly about, but never passed the courts.
He literally put himself on the record saying we took the First Amendment away. Now, he would argue I was just referencing specifically as it pertains to flag burning. Still strange, because as has already been litigated, the Supreme Court has already weighed in on this. That is emblematic of a broader freedom of expression that you have. As much as I'd be opposed to burning an American flag, someone obviously has the right to, as long as they're not taking someone else's and destroying their property. But if they just have a flag and they burn it, that's the most freedom of expression type thing, which is the whole point of these protections, that they protect even things that you wouldn't like to see or hear. And so there's a community note added to that post. Flag burning in the U.S. is a constitutionally protected First Amendment right over which the president has no authority. And of course, the Supreme Court, as I said, has weighed in on this, but he's now on the record saying the phrase that in America, no American president, obviously, should be on the record saying we took the First Amendment away. And if you're MAGA and you think, but he's just talking about one issue. These principles should be defended for a reason. And Trump's repeated suggestions and then actions that prove he has no regard and actually has some disdain for the First Amendment, they're going to pop up there. They're going to pop up in how he's treated media outlets, how he's threatened journalists, etc. And if you keep waiting until it impacts you, by the time that it does, it's going to be too late. Now, this whole press conference was on the topic of Antifa. And despite that being a really nebulous term, they're trying to fabricate this world where there's like this powerful organization, centralized organization of Antifa, anti-fascists, and that they're a terrorist organization. And then Trump randomly gets asked and just starts perpetuating that maybe Antifa did January 6th.
In the back, please.
Actually very compelling proof that Antifa did infiltrate on January 6th, dressed up like Trump
Very compelling proof.
supporters and incited violence. Is that something that you would want the new J6 committee at Congress to look into?
Well, I've heard that. They dress up like, they're fresh out of MAGA, but they have nothing to do with MAGA. And they make trouble and they try and blame it. And yeah, we know some of that, and we will be acting on some of that. We've seen it. So I think you could stay a little longer, but the problem is, although you have some very honest journalists in here, you also have some largely dishonest journalists like MSDNC and CNN. I think they're very dishonest.
I don't even know why he switched to that, but I would be curious who that journalist was and what she thinks she's talking about. But what's fascinating is you have the MAGA argument goes something like, Antifa did January 6th, which was horrible. what they did was horrible. And at the same time, the Trump supporters who did January 6th were right to receive a pardon because what they did wasn't horrible. And it's kind of like, it's weird to fearmonger about Antifa, which is not what they make it out to be. If anyone does violence in the name of Antifa, that's wrong and they should be held accountable, obviously. But the way they're trying to pretend like it's this well-funded organization at all, and not just like a loosely tethered together group of people who proclaim that, is ridiculous. But to substantiate how dangerous they are, they have to push a false flag theory about January 6th, where what was done was so horrible by Antifa, while they also downplay what was done by Trump supporters on January 6th. It's like, wait, was it this horrible event that Antifa did? Or was it what y'all did, or what some of y'all, so what specific people did, and all of you started apologizing for, and then Trump pardoned people for? Now, where they're probably getting that from, we've explained this many times, is the lie that the number of agents that responded to January 6th were actually agents embedded in the crowd, and they just lie about a stat there. And that's, I guess, what she's talking about. But even that doesn't connect to Antifa. That would be FBI. They're all over the place. And I guess in their world, while Trump was president, remember, on January 6th, he was president, his FBI was coordinating with Antifa to make Trump supporters look bad. Wow. Then this.
Thank you, sir.
While you're watching this, by the way, please do, if you appreciate the show, click the subscribe button. It is free, but I appreciate it greatly.
I also have two questions for you, if I may. Have you given any more thought to possibly suspending habeas corpus to not only deal with these insurrectionists across the nation, but also to continue rapidly deporting illegal aliens?
Yeah, it's suspending who?
Habeas corpus, sir.
Oh, I don't know. I'd rather leave that to Christie. What do you think?
No, sir.
Christie, well, answer this gentleman's question about Mr. Corpus. What a name. Sounds like corpse. Habeas. They call him Mr. Habeas. I guess he doesn't know what habeas corpus is. Oh. And Christie, no, you know what? Oh, I wish I brought the clip. What's so funny is that she didn't either. You remember in that hearing? All right, now this is the part, I'm trying to speed through this because this is the biggest part of this event, which is Marco Rubio comes up. We'll say this was not planned at all. Well, not planned because I just want to have a hopeful spirit that this is actually going to manifest.
Criminal conspiracy.
Okay. I'm just giving. Yeah, I was just given a note by the Secretary of State saying that we're very close to a deal in the Middle East, and they're going to need me pretty quickly. So I will take a couple of more questions.
So then let me lay out what we know as to what he was referring to at this point in time. And actually, I'll play a little bit of reporting here for you and then respond.
This is a major breakthrough for the war in Gaza, which is drawn out for 2 years.
We're very close to a deal in the Middle East.
Hamas is agreeing to release all of the remaining living hostages. It is estimated that there are as many as 20 hostages still living in Gaza. They could be released as soon as Monday, and in return, Israel is going to release as many as 1,700 Palestinian prisoners. This is very controversial for both sides, but they're hoping this is the first step toward a lasting peace. This deal is meant to open the floodgates of humanitarian aid and food and just basic assistance to people in Gaza. While this is a major breakthrough for peace in Gaza, there are still major obstacles to getting a deal done. And some of those obstacles have been there for months, if not years. Among them are, when will the IDF, the Israeli military, withdraw completely? This plan right now leaves that completely vague, and that is a crucial point for Hamas. Another major point is, will Hamas disarm? Hamas doesn't want to disarm, and Israel has said that its war aim is to destroy Hamas, or at least to disarm it. This deal is overwhelmingly popular with the Israeli public. However, Prime Minister Netanyahu's right-wing government has very far-right elements who have been opposed to any peace deal that doesn't involve Hamas being completely destroyed. Netanyahu could agree to this and then see his government collapse and the country go to elections.
So a lot broken down there, but let me read a little bit more and then we'll talk further. Deal announced, NBC News reports President Donald Trump announced last night that the first phase of the plan to end the conflict in Gaza had been agreed to. It includes a pause in fighting and the release of Israeli hostages and Palestinian prisoners. And then Trump is traveling to Egypt and the actual official signing has to happen. So we're really early, but you could see, and it was exciting and heartening to see people in the street celebrating, even popping champagne. And that represents the positivity of some progress. And I just read to you a pause in fighting, hostages being released in exchange for Palestinian prisoners. And so then, after that kind of excitement and hope, a big question mark is next. And that's what, even in the short term, the fact that those things happened and then however long they're negotiating, there'll be some pause is good. But then what happens in those negotiations? That's the really stressful part. Because if you looked at Trump's 20-point peace plan, and it kind of, the part I'm about to talk about is just going to come back every time. We saw at the end of Biden's term a peace agreement, and then it collapsed, and then Trump's term, and then now again. And the reason is there's these underlying sources. And have those underlying sources changed? I don't know. I hope. One of the big demands, and you heard reference there, from Trump and Israel is that Hamas gives up power. That would obviously be the correct thing and good, great. Will it happen though? Given, I mean, they've demonstrated any amount of suffering of Israelis, of Palestinians is acceptable if it means they hold on to power. And then essentially Netanyahu would have to agree, not technically, but in effect, to likely give up power himself. And that's been a huge factor, which is that understanding this actually comes to some lasting peace. Netanyahu's government, elections would have to happen so the government could collapse, then Netanyahu could be pushed out of power, and then he has this whole tranche of issues, legal and otherwise. And the continuation of the war and of the killing is serving power-oriented interests. Has that changed since the last time that a peace agreement collapsed? I don't know. And I'm really hoping that it has and that we actually will see a lasting peace. It feels so disheartening to think that those would be obstacles that couldn't be overcome. But for lasting peace, I mean, Hamas would have to be out of power and Netanyahu would have to be out of power. Will either of them agree to that? We'll see. We will see. And I think as much positive energy as I can send, and hey, if Trump can do it, that would be incredible. As I'm saying those words, it's making me even more nervous. But for the sake of, my goodness, human lives, beautiful human lives, something has to change. So we'll obviously be keeping ourselves updated on that. Then we go back to the press conference and we're back to Antifa.
They have been so bold in making sure we're bringing those individuals to justice. One of the individuals we arrested recently in Portland was the girlfriend of one of the founders of Antifa, and that we are hoping that as we go after her, interview her, and prosecute her, we will get more and more information about the network and how we can root them out and eliminate them from the existence of American society. They have been so bold.
Yeah, Mehdi Hasan said, as much as I loathe it, the right-wing messaging machine is a sight to behold. They have, with astonishing discipline and effectiveness, conjured up an Antifa boogeyman out of nothing and are now talking of nothing else when I can't remember them barely mentioning Antifa just months ago. And someone said, kudos to whatever person she's talking about who fed this story to Kristi Noem, because there's not really, from my understanding, I might be wrong, I'm probably not, but there's not like this formal organization in the way that you would have. They're trying to compare it to Tren de Aragua or Trans de Aragua, maybe coming soon. Trans Tifa. There's not a similar. It's not even in the same conversation, but that's what they're trying to make it out to be. And then they just create this whole boogeyman that's mostly them shadowboxing. They're mostly shadowboxing, and so it's fascinating that she found someone who proclaimed to be the girlfriend. I'm confused. It's just the girlfriend, but she's getting arrested. But then they're going to find the founder. Okay, I mean, what did the founder do? A lot of people who call themselves Antifa just mean they're going to go protest and be against fascism. If you have to demonstrate an actual crime that someone participated in, but they have created this whole. And then what happens with MAGA is they get to win against the non-existent villain in their own story, and that's fun because they can go, America, have you heard about Antifa anymore? We destroyed them. And it's like, but you kind of made that up. So, yeah, I guess you won. Then this.
What this is and what damage it is doing to our country, and how this network of Antifa is just as sophisticated as MS-13, as TDA, as ISIS, as Hezbollah, as Hamas, as all of them. They are just as dangerous. They have an agenda to destroy us, just like the other terrorists we've dealt with for many, many years. And today is the day that we have a president that won't tolerate it and will stand up and fight for the American people. So thank you for being here, for being so bold, and for standing.
Trump's riveted. Change, show that again. Absolutely riveted by this whole press conference. He's clearly very concerned about Antifa. GDA. She did bring up Trans de Aragua. Tren de Aragua. Shoot. And Hezbollah is Antifa? And what they're referencing is acts of political violence. And there have been cases of those, and those people should be held fully accountable. But for this kind of was heavily prompted by Kirk's assassination. But as you might remember, Kirk's alleged assassin wasn't a part of Antifa, wasn't a part of any organization. It seemed he had anti-Kirk, that sort of left ideology, but he wasn't like a part of an organization called Antifa. But that's what they're. I've said it so many times, same thing with the National Guard being deployed. They need a crisis, even if it exists or not, to address. And that's what the Portland thing's about, and that's what Antifa is about, so that they can have these victories, however made up they are.
Fortunately, their ratings are terrible.
They are terrible.
MSNBC is dying, and CNN is dying like a dog.
And
Poor CNN. It's so pathetic.
it is very pathetic.
You ever see their anchors?
What did he just say here? Did he say?
Poor CNN.
What?
Poor CNN. It's so pathetic.
Oh, poor CNN. Poor CNN. Okay, I thought he was thinking like they're dying like a dog, and then he's like, well, I don't want to just call out dogs. They're dying like a pussycat too. Now, what's weird is he really has an issue with dogs, and we heard that clip and Cole put this together because he's never talked about dogs in a positive context. Look at this.
I'm up here sweating like a dog.
He quit like a dog.
He was choking like a dog. He was choking. They cheated like dogs, but he died like a dog. She lied like a dog. She choked like a dog. I dropped him like a dog. CNN is dying like a dog. But I just had a hot dog, and it was very good.
There's something iconic about that compilation with "In the Arms of an Angel." He doesn't like dogs. That's very clear. Choking like a dog. What has he done to dogs? Then this.
Conjunction, I think they work in conjunction with some of the media. I think ABC is very bad. I think NBC is very bad. And CBS has a new owner, so we have hope for CBS. CBS has a great new owner, my opinion. But as I will tell you, ABC is terrible. NBC is terrible. NBC's MSNBC too. You know, they changed it. They moved it over legally so they couldn't be tainted by the words MSNBC. But they are absolutely terrible. There are a lot.
That's not why that happened. It's like a business reconfiguration. But he just posted that the FCC needs to look into NBC. We need to stop because this is always the recourse from MAGAs, pretending like, oh, he's just venting, because now he's actually turned it into action. So when he says all these outlets are dying like dogs and they should die like dogs, and I want to kill them like a dog, and Kristi Noem's going to kill them like she killed her dog, and that's going to be our agenda, it's real. It's very real. Did you catch the Kristi Noem dog? Okay. Whatever. I thought you were going to like that, but they didn't really like it. They weren't listening. Okay, here's this.
And the people are all against him. They want people to come. Beautiful black women are wearing a MAGA hat last night on television. Beautiful people. And they said, we don't care who comes, just stop the crime. They don't
Beautiful black women, he says, are on the streets saying, we don't care who comes. They're just standing out in MAGA hats saying, please, Mr. President, come.
I'm going to come.
Yeah, I mean, that's what he's saying. I'm not making a innuendo. That's literally what he's saying. It is always weird when he goes, even black people, like in whatever context, and even black people want me to come. Why is that so shocking to you? If you're so popular and your policies are so great, why is it always worded like that? I mean, African American black people in MAGA hats, they like me. And I'm like, what? Why would you like me? Why? Why is that always the assumption? We got 10% of black women. What? That's crazy. I always found that strange. And then this.
The amazing thing is you look at Portland and you see fires all over the place. You see fights and, I mean, just violence. It's just so crazy. And then you talk to the governor and she acts like everything is totally normal. There's nothing wrong. It's almost like, are you waking up from a dream or something? You see it on your network.
I think maybe that's actually really good that he figured that out. I think you've been dreaming these things. I mean, there's very limited protests gone wrong. And most of the clips I've seen posted, the Oregon GOP got busted for posting a clip of a protest in South America and calling it Portland. Now, there are some, I saw like, tear gas is being sprayed and protesters are being shot in the head with rubber bullets, but it's like less than a block right outside of this building, and most of the time it's way calm. And so if anyone engages in violence, completely wrong. Y'all know that. I'm not trying to pretend like that's fine, but most of the time Trump's completely inventing stories. That's the important part. So it's become a popular thing, if I can pull this clip up, for people to post clips of what's happening on the ground. Jane, you can cut to this. At these protests. Very dangerous. Dangerous stuff. No, and you can find footage of, tear gas being sprayed at people, but it's just not of a caliber that would at all require federal intervention. That's the point. Let's see if I can find my place here. Trump, very riveted. Look at this.
Been covering violence in the streets. Just this year, just this year, it's always been from left-wing people. Radical left-wing people, and it's not even just Antifa anymore. The shooting that happened in the defensive shooting that happened in the Chicago area, that wasn't someone dressed in black bloc. That was just somebody that
Trump barely being able to keep himself awake despite this being right. And I just, this isn't really related, but I'm a little concerned that Bobby's coming for the penises.
There's 2 studies that show children who are circumcised early have double the rate of autism.
Come here, you look autistic. Let me see your penis. You have an autistic penis. So now talk about coming out of a dream. That's coming out of a night. I think I had that nightmare the other night. Bobby was like, come here, Luke, I need to see your penis. And then it became real life. Now I tried to find studies he was talking about. Of course, the one that I could find that he was referencing was wildly discredited, and I'm for study everything, but he once again seems to be citing weak evidence. And then one of the participants in this Antifa press conference said that she believes she got more attractive after she gave up her TDS, Trump derangement syndrome.
I'm going to tell it to you anyway, because it's relevant to what we're talking about. I'm living proof that you can recover from TDS. I had strong Trump derangement syndrome for probably 8 years. This is one of the reasons I recovered from it. And by the way, it's much better to not have TDS. I'm happier, I'm healthier, more successful. I even think I got a little more attractive after I got rid of my Trump derangement syndrome. Yes.
Trump, very attractive. You're attractive like a dog. So my thing is, what's this last one? Okay, we have one more clip and it's bonkers. But my thing is, if you have TDS, you're hotter to me. Really. Like on dating apps, that's my first question. Do you have Trump derangement syndrome? Because I think Trump has done enough to derange us where it actually makes some sense. But these things just turn into, as I'm glitching out, that was your computer was kind of buffering. That wasn't my voice. They just turn into little cult sessions where everyone's saying stuff like that. And then Trump goes, very attractive. And then finally you have this.
We're not going to stop at just arresting the violent criminals we can see in the streets. Fighting crime is more than just getting the bad guy off the streets. It's breaking down the organization brick by brick. Just like we did with cartels, we're going to take the same approach, President Trump, with Antifa. Destroy the entire organization from top to bottom. We're going to take them.
I don't think there is a top. Don't tell Bobby. I don't think there's a top of the organization. I don't think there's a top of the organization. I've never heard, is there like an executive vice president of sales of Antifa? I don't know if that's even true. But what's frightening is she said we're going to do to Antifa what we did to the drug cartels. Now, that's a scary thing to hear. Do you mean extrajudicially killing people? Because that's what they've been doing to the alleged drug boats that might just be fishing boats, as Trump admitted. That's frightening.